Welcome back to Civil Discourse Now. This is our New Year's Eve edition. This is being done at just shy of 12 o'clock.
We haven't started drinking.
But it's 12 hours earlier than that.
Though if you'd seen our off-air banter, you would think
Actually, from on-air banter, one would think that. I'm Mark Small. I'm an Indianapolis attorney. I'm co-host with Paul Ogden, who's also an Indianapolis attorney. Our guests today are Jon Easter. He's a teacher, and he blogs on indydemocrat.blogspot.com. Got it right that time.
Thank you.
And Matt Stone, who blogs on Indy's student blog. He ran for City-County Council in 2011 for the Libertarian Party. They have staged a coup on this show, so we're changing the order of what we're doing in our segments. Next, we're going to discuss the race for the United States Senate. The United States Senate features the incumbent, Richard Lugar. The likely challenger from the Democratic Party is Joe Donnelly.
A congressman from the 2nd District up north.
Yes.
South Bend area.
Yes. Then Richard Murdoch, who is the state treasurer. Andy Horning is a libertarian. Bob Thomas is a Republican. And Jack Rooney is an independent who is an audio-video production studio owner, an Army veteran, and 2010 candidate. Those are the candidates.
Well, those are the candidates who have been picked up on that website that you haven't filed yet.
Yeah, because the filing deadline is until February 15th.
I don't even think they can open a campaign
exploratory
committee, but to raise money, but actually to file to be a candidate. I don't think that period started.
Yeah, now, here's the incumbent, Richard Lugar. And when Richard Lugar ran in 1976, I was interviewed by the Star because I was student body president of DePaul. They asked me who I was supporting for president, and I said Abby Hoffman. And they said, well, he isn't running. And I said, he better be because he's wanted. But I couldn't vote for Lugar because he brought in Unigov, which I felt was an effective way of trying to keep African Americans from gaining control of city-county.
Now, was that the Senate race he lost, or was that the one he won?
That was when he won. 74, Birch Bayh beat him. 76.
In a landslide.
Yeah, and then he came back and beat Vance Hartke, who was... But here are some interesting stats about Richard Lugar that may be applicable to things or maybe not. None of the players on the 40-member expanded roster of the San Diego Padres was born at the time that he was sworn into office.
Zero.
Peyton Manning, of course, we're coming in from Indianapolis. I didn't point that out. Big Hat Books, 6510 Cornell Avenue. Great place to buy books. Peyton Manning was only like 10 months old at the time that he was sworn into office. People wore leisure suits still in some parts of the state of Indiana.
I wasn't born yet.
Oh, you know,
Right. No, Matt wasn't. I was still in diapers.
well,
Well, I still am, but still.
I was thinking
That depends.
Oh, New Year's, you've already
Right.
But we're talking about Lugar has been in office longer than any other United States senator from Indiana in history.
And he's like the second or third currently.
Right, but if the Republicans take control, he would be the president pro tem of the Senate because he's been in there the longest of any Republican.
Yeah,
That's
this,
just a
Which means
ceremonial
actually
position.
absolutely nothing.
Means he's fourth in line for the presidency.
Well, then.
but the polling that's being done recently, in July, Basswood Research did a poll. Club for Growth would have voted 34% for Murdoch, 32% for Lugar, 34% for some guy named Undecided, or woman named Undecided. Lugar is unpopular among some people in this state. I mean, I know the Tea Party activists.
Can I say, as someone who's, I lean more to the right generally, but I don't really see what the, as far as his actual votes go, he's a fairly consistently conservative guy. As far as his legislative votes go, I know he's had some issues, like he supported the DREAM Act, but generally speaking, when legislation doesn't succeed, you can't really hold it against someone. It doesn't really resonate with voters.
Well,
so, I mean, it's kind of like in the 5th District, where if you elect someone different, 95, 96% of the votes will still be the same. So on one hand, I don't really see what the whole upset is about, and on the other hand, Murdoch, it doesn't really seem to be gaining any traction from the Republican base. His campaign is, rumor is he's loaning his campaign money at this point.
He doesn't have to do that.
But you say he has no support among the base. He's got like 70 of the 92 county chair.
Yes, and how many people know
He's
who
even got county chair, or is that Lugar that had the county chair that wasn't actually a county? One of the
That
two
was
candidates.
actually county.
Lee County, I think.
Lee. Oh, it was another.
Yeah.
But how much of that support from the county chairs has translated into campaign donations, into phone banking?
I don't think there's
into
any question that Lugar's going to have more money than Murdoch.
Well, here's a question that I have, and this comes down to a question of Indiana law. I blogged on this a couple of months ago. I'm sitting here as a Democrat. I'm frightened of the notion that Murdoch could win the nomination for the Republican Party and then possibly win the United States Senate seat. Whereas if Donnelly is unopposed as a Democrat in the primary, there's no point in my voting in the Senate race. And right now I don't see any other races that I feel really strongly about. Indiana is an open state for primaries. Mm-hmm. I walk into that primary and I ask for a Republican ballot, somebody challenges me. Under Indiana law, if I sign an affidavit and say, I voted for at least half of the Republican candidates in the last general election.
Is it like intent? You intend to vote?
Or the future.
Or I promise, I intend to vote for half of the candidates in the future, I'm allowed to vote in the primary. That's against the law. Under Indiana law, you cannot be forced to disclose what your past vote was in an election, and you cannot be given consideration for your vote. In other words, you can't have your vote bought.
But the thing is, people always bring this up, especially since Rush Limbaugh popularized this with Operation Chaos. But in Indiana, at least, there's going to be other races on the ballot. There will be some contested Democrat races in Indiana legislature seats and U.S. Congress seats. So even if Democrats don't have something to vote on in the U.S. Senate, in many districts and in many places, they'll have other seats to vote on in primaries.
And Operation Chaos was very real because you can go through some of these voter records and you see R, D,
yeah.
And then they're back to R, the next few. So it really kind of made things more difficult for campaigning because you wanted to target the Obama voters. It was very difficult to do unless you went back to that primary and you saw where people flip-flopped their registration. So now, I know I've got some Republican friends who are probably Operation Chaos people that are getting Democrat literature.
I mean, I voted in a Republican primary before I worked on Hillary Clinton's campaign. I voted in a Democrat primary in 2008. I don't think that should be held against people who choose to vote in the more competitive race.
Hillary Clinton's?
Yeah. For 4 whole days.
I don't think that the parties have it's like they have a proprietary interest in saying, well, you're either in our party or that party, and you have to meet these requirements.
It's like a jealous guy who can't handle his girlfriend talking to other guys. It's like you can't go over to them.
It's why people don't vote in the primary, is because you don't want to declare your party affiliation a lot of times with people, and this is one of the reasons why, is because
49 of 50 states you have to declare your party
right.
either closed or open.
Yep.
And closed is even more so. You can't. The parties like closed primaries because that way they know exactly who their voters are.
And they can mail crap to you later.
Well, they can give you a crap as you're going in the door, too. But here's another thing. If the Charlie White thing goes through, Charlie White's Secretary of State of Indiana, if his election is voided, then all of a sudden the Republican Party is not automatically on the ballot.
That's not going to
passed
happen.
a bill, I think, to deal with that.
If there isn't a bill that hasn't been proposed or passed yet, they will find some loophole to make sure Republicans stay on the ballot. There's no way that in 2012 or 2014 that Republicans will have to go gather signatures door to door. That isn't going to happen.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong too on this.
You're
I think
wrong.
Mike Young. Thank you. Mike Young actually proposed a bill that would have allowed the governor to select the Secretary of State. The old Secretary of State was thrown out.
Right.
That part of the
failed.
bill got defeated.
Right.
But I think there was another part of the bill that said something that addressed the ballot access.
I think John
it's somewhere in the back of my mind, and I think it passed.
Yeah, but would that
Because I think I blogged on it.
would that have retroactive
Yeah,
effect?
they could do that. Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so
But-
it's not a criminal matter.
But you know, the thing with VOP, everybody in you know, this is totally unrelated to the Senate, which there actually are some Charlie White issues in the Senate, which I know you've been very solid on, Paul. But
Solid is incorrect.
solid, yes, with Richard Lugar using an address
right.
locally. You
That
know,
he hasn't lived at.
the lamestream media hasn't picked up on it yet, but
we don't use cliches on the show.
Our show is.
I put finger quotations on it.
We can't do that.
They call them bunny ears.
Bunny ears, is that what it is?
Yeah.
But anyway, I think that there's still some things there with that. But the Charlie White with that issue, you know, that's a mess.
Okay, no,
That's just a mess.
So we've talked all about the Republicans. What about Donnelly as a candidate?
He's not going to win.
Well,
Can I say this right now? I mean, the state Democrats, the party infrastructure just seems to be in shambles right now.
Oh, it's awful.
And for them to, I mean, I'm not saying that they can't win eventually, but in 2012, at least for the Senate seat, it just doesn't seem like a realistic possibility.
Yeah.
I don't think any statewide seat, which would be just Senate or governor, could be won by a Democrat in 2012. If not because of the actual voting population, because of the party infrastructure being in shambles.
The Indiana Democratic Party is, I mean, we saw it. It's been fractured. You have the Lake County and the Marion County entities and parts of the party that are kind of, you know, I don't want to say against the rest of the state, but they kind of feel disrespected because in many ways they drive I mean, that's where the majorities are, Lake and Marion County. And I think that there's some friction. There's always been friction between personalities there. And, you know, a lot of people weren't happy, myself included, about how this new election of the chair went down. So all of this is going to come out, and it's a shame because John Gregg is probably the best candidate we've had for governor.
For those that don't know,
in years.
we're going to get to governor here in a minute.
But, you know, with the Senate, Joe Donnelly is basically, you know, the lock, stock, and barrel Democratic candidate. You know, that runs in Indiana.
He'll face a lot of the same issues that Brad Ellsworth faced in getting some of the Democrat base to vote for him.
Ellsworth was a far better candidate than Joe Donnelly.
I had Democrats who did not have a conversion to Ellsworth.
They never talked to him. They never talked to him.
I still say that was a mistake for everybody to wait so long and have the candidate not go through a contested primary. People always say, "Oh, a primary is always bad." It's not always bad.
Well, it's bad to
We saw
the
that.
establishment.
Well, made for the establishment, but it publicizes.
That's
Put your
because-
name out.
Bias. I'm sorry.
So
FCC doesn't apply to us. We can curse on the air.
Yeah, he did screw the party over. But in terms of issues, Donnelly's issues, as far as I can tell, and looking at his congressional voting record, he
and Lugar have the same problem. They're both kind of more towards the center, and the far left of the party rails against him. The far right of the party rails against Lugar. So I think they both kind of have the same problem. I'm not so sure that they aren't. Maybe, I mean, if you look at Donnelly's record, he's pretty reliable, does a Democratic vote, but I'm not so sure that those candidates on some issues that Lugar isn't to the left of Donnelly on some of the issues, and I think that's interesting to me. Like, for example, the Dream Act. Donnelly was strongly against that. That's the
immigrants have been here, served in the military, and you can get your citizenship.
actually, no, I think it's the children.
It's the children of illegal immigrants. They can
have
attend
in-state
college.
tuition.
right.
We're at the end of this segment. We'll be back.
I do want to
participate and contribute along with the rest.